I want to welcome everyone to Master AI Tools for e-commerce success. We have insights from some Google experts here. Let us know where you're zooming in from. Let us know the company you're with, your location, and what you're hoping to learn. I'm super excited for this webinar. It's packed with data-backed ways to make AI work for your e-commerce ads. I'm Kimberly Anderson, Director of Content at Agile, and I'm joined by a familiar face, Logan Durant, and two experts from Google, Laura and Jenny, who will share how AI is changing search, shopping behavior, and ad performance, and what you should be doing about it. So by the end of the session, you'll have practical, no fluff, of course, strategies to make AI work for your ad performance in 2025. Let's move on to some more speaker intros. So as I mentioned, Logan is here. He's our VP of Paid Media Strategy. He's been with Agile for 11 years. And he helped launch the agency's Google Shopping, Google Shopping and Marketplace services, and has been building high-performing search marketing teams ever since. Today, he helps create paid advertising strategies for some of our clients like HP and Jelly Belly. Then we have Laura Levine. She is the Senior Strategic Agency Manager at Google. As a Senior Strategic Agency Manager, Laura partners with leading agencies like us to drive client success and innovation through Google's marketing solutions. In partnership with Agile, she's focused on empowering e-commerce advertisers to unlock their full potential on Google, including the adoption of AI-powered tools and best practices, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Then we have Jenny Whitehead. She is Google's performance product lead. She's a digital marketing expert with over 12 years of experience. She specializes in helping advertisers leverage the power of AI to drive performance in today's dynamic online landscape. During her 9 years at Google, Jenny has partnered with many of Google's latest advertisers and agencies to achieve significant growth through search, display, and video. So let's move on. And thank you all for being here before we move on quickly. I'm launching a poll now. So for those of you in attendance, we'd love to know if you're using generative AI in your marketing strategy, a simple yes or no. And then let us know in the chat what you might be using and how. And Laura, Jenny, and Logan, I'd love to hear from you about how you've used generative AI in your marketing strategies.
Yeah, I think for data analysis, it's a great tool. Just, if you have lots of data you need to crunch and synthesize insights and key actions, generative AI has been great for that. In addition to, you know, ad copywriting, things like that, ideas.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of content writing in the chat. Jenny, what about you?
Yeah, I am seeing lots of advertisers using our generative AI creative features within Google Ads. So I know that creating new creative, better creative is very expensive and time consuming. So there's some great tools within Google Ads that you can use to up-level the content that you already have and create more. So definitely recommend playing around with those.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think I love seeing advertisers use the Gen AI tools that we have within Google. I think one of the biggest use cases is the ability to take like a hero asset and then generate different variations of that. So allowing you guys to scale the volume of creative that you're using with AI. So I think that's a great use case.
Awesome. Let's end the poll. Share the results. Let's see. It looks like 65% of you are using generative AI in your marketing, and 35% of you are not, but maybe by the end of this webinar, we can convince you to jump on the AI wave. So I will move on and let Laura take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. And hey, everyone. Great to be here today. Not surprised to see that the majority of you are already using generative AI. And if you answered no, I can guarantee that you will be soon. And that is because Gen AI is integrated into so many of the products and tools that marketers are using today. This is obviously a huge area of focus and innovation here at Google, and one that is driven by the broader impact that AI is having on the search and e-commerce landscapes overall. So on the next slide. So let's start where we always should as marketers, which is with the consumer. So as everyone here knows, today's shoppers demand hyper-relevant results, and they have the technology that delivers that relevance, simplifies the discovery process, and enhances shopper convenience. At the same time, though, they also have more products, brands, and touch points than ever. So to put that into perspective, on average, consumers are interacting with over 130 mobile touch points per day. So they are constantly navigating the options of where, when, and how to buy. And so all of this adds up to what we refer to as a predictably unpredictable shopper experience. So next slide. So where are your consumers spending their time? They are moving seamlessly between 4 key behaviors. So those are searching, streaming, scrolling, and shopping. And so this obviously creates a much more non-linear consumer journey, but it also creates more opportunities. So it's opportunities for consumers to shop while they search, shop while they stream, and then shop while they scroll. And then simultaneously, we have entered into the era of AI. So the huge platform shift that's happening right now is what we call the third big shift of the digital revolution. So as everyone here knows, first there was the arrival of the internet, then there was the move to mobile, both of which drove huge changes in the world of marketing. And now AI has the potential to be just as impactful, if not more. So with that, let me pass it over to our AI-powered product lead, Jenny, who's going to walk you through how AI is impacting search behavior in particular, and how you can use Google's AI-powered ads to make sure you're at the forefront of that change.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. And hi, everybody. So nice to meet you all. On the next slide, let's dig into how search behavior is changing. So search is a reflection of us, right? And it's also a reflection of your consumer base. And searching is, of course, synonymous with Google. So you think about it, we search on Google for what we need, we search in it for what we want, and even what we're thinking. And more than 2 billion people are searching billions of times every day on Google, making it the best platform to capture the intent of consumers. And what's really interesting is that search is consistently evolving, and that's because what we're thinking about, what we're going through in our daily lives is changing, right? And every day, 15% of Google searches we see are completely new. And what's crazy is that stat has been the same for over a decade now. However, due to the advancements in AI, the way that people look for information is actually changing. So let's go to the next slide. AI overviews. I hope many of you have used it or have experienced it so far in Google search. This is one of our biggest improvements that we've made to search in the last 20 years. I know we were speaking there about how many of us are using large language models like Gemini to, just do many things at marketing, but plan many things in our daily lives. It's really changed our behaviors in so many ways already in these early days of generative AI. And so instead of searching multiple questions to get an answer, we're providing highly complex inputs and directions and receiving really, really helpful responses due to generative AI. And Google's AI overviews, which you see in Google Search, is powered by Gemini. This is a really amazing innovation in search because it not only combines the magic of the large language model experience, but it combines it with Google's core search systems. And so it connects users who are searching to really high quality results from across the web. And so these longer and more specific queries that we see in AI overviews gives us even more stronger intent to match with relevant businesses and services. And this helps us drive more qualified and engaged traffic for businesses around the world. So already we have rolled out these AI overviews in more than 100 countries, and now they reach more than 1 billion global users every month. And so since launching ads in AI overviews, we see that people finding ads directly in the overviews even more helpful because they can quickly connect with relevant businesses, products, and services to take the next step in their purchase journey. So on the next slide, as I mentioned with the introduction of large language models in search, people are asking new types of queries. They're longer and they're more complex queries. So some of them are like 10 searches in one. So people aren't searching things like king size mattresses anymore. Instead, they're asking Google AI, what is the best affordable king mattress that's hypoallergenic and good for side sleepers? So many questions in one search. And now with AI overviews, search can provide more comprehensive answers to these questions in ways that were not possible before without generative AI. And because of this, AI overviews has resulted in an increasing volume of commercial queries. But another reason why people are searching more on the next slide is because now they can search what they see. So we've all been there, we're searching, or we see something that we really like or need, like a beautiful vase of flowers that we can't describe, or some really nice jeans, but we've no idea how to describe it in words. Wouldn't it be great if we can just take a photo and search for it? And so that's what Google Lens is. It's one of our fastest growing types of searches on Google. And Google Lens is used for 20 billion visual searches every month, and the majority of these are incremental. This means that those searches would never have happened before without Google Lens. And circle to search is a really cool feature within Google Lens if you haven't used it before. So what we see is users, especially younger users, taking screenshots from social media or on the web and uploading them to Lens. But with circle to search, you don't have to switch apps. You can literally on an Android device circle it, and then you will see results on the Google results page of similar items to purchase. And so this is creating entirely new opportunities to get your ads in front of consumers at exactly the right moment, because they're really ready and looking and intent to buy at that moment. And what we've seen is 1 out of every 4 Lens searches has commercial intent, which is really crazy, right? It's 25% of those searches people are ready to buy. So really great opportunity to capitalize on. So on the next slide, how do you capture this changing demand and behavior, right? The rate of change is so fast. And the only way to keep up with this evolving behavior due to AI is to actually leverage those same AI signals to power up your digital marketing. And the great news is that that same AI that is powering up search and AI overviews is available to leverage within your Google Ads campaigns. So let's dive into them. So the next slide, with what consumers search and how they search completely changing every day, it's really impossible for you to anticipate every possible search that's relevant to your business. And because of this, it's more important now than ever to understand the intent that drives the search. So broad match keywords allow your ads to show on searches that are relevant to your keyword, including searches that may not actually contain the actual keywords that you have in your account. For example, a broad match keyword like women's hats could help you match with more relevant queries that you may not have thought of, like winter headwear for women or women's accessories. And broad match is the only match type that utilizes AI and the full extent of all the signals available to understand that intent. So the system looks at additional signals in your account to match to more relevant traffic. And this includes things like the landing page, other keywords within your ad group, and previous searches, just to name a few. And so pairing this broad match feature with smart bidding, you're leveraging billions of signals at the auction time around intent to understand what the best bid is to pay for every single query and get the most return for your ad investment. So on the next slide, as Laura mentioned earlier, customers are constantly moving between screens, and they're changing between searching and streaming and scrolling and shopping, sometimes all at the same time. And Performance Max is our latest and greatest AI powered campaign type that helps you capitalize on the opportunities that this non-linear customer journey brings. So PMax is a single campaign type that brings you the full power of all of Google's advertising channels in a single campaign type to help you capture these valuable searches from customers that you might have missed if you were just using search alone. So PMax gives you the most expansive channel coverage and leverages AI to automatically optimize not only your bids, but your creatives and your audiences as well. So this allows you to be wherever consumers are as they move throughout that non-linear customer journey. So on the next slide, finally, in short, just the only way to capture this ever-changing consumer behavior is to really lean into the power of AI with our AI-powered trifecta of smart bidding, broad match, and performance max. But I do want to just stress that AI isn't the silver bullet alone, right? Human input and your data are absolutely imperative to guide the AI to drive the business objectives that matter the most to you. So, investing in high quality first party data, a durable measurement foundation, and continuous optimization by your amazing agile skilled practitioners here, you can fuel your AI for long-term success and to get the most for your business and out of your media dollars as well. So with that, I'm going to pass you over to Logan, who is going to discuss best practices to deliver you the best results with AI.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jenny. So much good content, and so amazing to see how search queries have evolved over the years with the advent of AI, and how they're so much longer, so much more complex. My my Sonos just turned on with I think it said, that's really funny. My speaker system just turned on. Speaking of voice commands and all of that. Um, yeah, so what I'm going to focus on today here is how we at Agile get the most out of Performance Max and Broad Match, which I think, you highlighted, Jenny, are the two most important kind of like AI-driven campaign features in Google Ads. So we start with Performance Max, and we have a poll here at the outset, and we want to know what aspect of Performance Max you all need the most help with. Is it the use of audiences and first-party data? Does it help with product segmentation? Is it product feed optimization, asset performance, and asset creation, or identifying creative gaps within Performance Max? These are really multifaceted campaigns, so there's so many things to consider when you build these. So just curious what everyone's pain points are in terms of understanding and knowledge gaps.
Logan, what's something you see a lot of incoming clients struggle with?
I see a lot of them struggle with a couple things. One is like the audience signals. So sometimes they don't understand the difference between a signal and targeting. So they might leave out their first party data, or their product segmentation might not be matched up with what their budgets are, or what their ROAS targets or CPA targets are.
Yeah. All right, let's share the results of this poll. It looks like asset performance is a pretty clear issue, followed by product feed optimization, and then first party data. So we're definitely going to get into talking about those issues. Logan is well versed in all of these things, and I'm sure he will address many of those questions that you might have.
Yeah, this is great. I didn't expect it to see it spread out so evenly, but that's awesome. Cool. So let's jump into it. So yeah, let's talk about audience signals. I think the first thing, like I said, to understand about these signals is that they are signals to Google. They are not overt audience targets. They are suggestions. So you can have a Performance Max campaign that targets, or that has ingested your first party data but it's not just going to target your customers. It's going to look outside of these audiences, especially if you're targeting new customers. So as a rule, I think we look at first party data as like one of the most important signals that we can feed Performance Max. And if we can segment this data, that's even better. So segmenting it between just your pool of existing customers, having a VIP customer segment, or even like a segment of emails that you have that might not be customers yet, but you've captured their information. So there's a lot you can do to segment these, and the more you can feed to Performance Max, the better the campaigns will perform. So we talked about this. This is you have the option to bid only on new customers in Performance Max, which I think is a great feature. So when we think about where your ad spend is going, if you have a really high repeat rate, really high repurchase rate for your business, sometimes you end up spending a lot of ad spend on customers who already know you, but they go back to Google to search for your name, and you're spending a lot of money on people who already know you and are really likely to convert. I think it's important to show ads for those folks, but it's also important to make sure that you can have a lever on ad dollars that are going towards new customers. So the ability to separate that out within Performance Max gives you, the advertiser, much more control over how much is going towards new customers versus the existing customers. The next thing here is product segmentation. So I think this is a huge one. When Performance Max campaigns first came out, I think it was very easy for people to look at them and say, okay, we're grouping together products and audiences and creatives. So it makes a lot of sense to group products by category, by product type. So putting all product type X together and all product type Y together. And what we found over time is that that is a useful place to start, but there's other ways that you can segment these products that will help you allocate budgets more effectively and help you get the most out of the campaigns. And the biggest thing is layering performance into the segmentation. So if you can have, product category XYZ, but some top sellers within those categories, things like that can really help you allocate your ad dollars for maximum impact. And especially if you have a large catalog, I think this is where a lot of these tactics come into play. So if you have like a very large catalog and many different campaigns, sometimes if you add new products to the catalog that could be like really hot sellers, they might not get picked up by the algorithm right away. So if you can emphasize those products maybe in their own campaign, it's a way to kind of emphasize them even more and kind of give Google the signal that, hey, I do want to advertise these. I do want to focus on them. Another thing is that sometimes products for one reason or another will lose traction with the algorithm. So using like a label like zombie SKUs to kind of revive products that may have been booted out of the algorithm for one reason or another, where that they should be performing well, is a great way to kind of kickstart the AI again and have it focus on these products. And then there are just like other attributes of your product catalog that Google and Google's AI just might not understand or know about, like your margin data, for example. So building that to your product feed to help set more intelligent KPIs, I think is something that we've seen work a lot with clients, as well as if there are map pricing policies in place. So if a product is controlled by a map policy, whether it's set by you, the brand owner, or if you're a reseller of products, it's important to understand the products that fall into that category so you can monitor their performance and then maybe make adjustments to your segmentation. You're seeing better or worse performance on that cohort.
Logan, I want to interrupt you quickly, as I do.
Yeah.
So I see there's a question. Thoughts on using new customer acquisition exclusive for PMax campaigns? Thoughts on using new customer acquisition. So for Mike Ryan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love it. I think new customer acquisition at like that setting, that's you can bid on, you can choose to bid more for new customers to like some level more, or you can choose to bid on only new customers. We've had a lot of good luck with the just new customers only, and having some separate campaigns to bid on existing customers. I think it's especially important if your business has a high repeat purchase rate. Like I said, because if you're continually getting people coming back to Google, searching for your brand name, those ad dollars can add up, and like you want those people to come back and buy. But in general, for like long-term growth, you want to be investing even more into the net new. So that's a way to draw like a clean line, or pretty clean line between those two cohorts. And then you can choose how much you're putting towards the net new.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Laura had one too that she just put in the chat and says, we have an agency that does this for us. Is this the same as brand versus non-brand campaigns? Not quite. So I think like back in the day, brand and non-brand was a proxy for new versus returning. But I think today the thinking has evolved a little bit in that not every branded search is an existing customer, and not every branded search is guaranteed to make its way to make their way to your website, because there is competition for a lot of our clients on their name brand. So while you can do the brand versus non-brand segmentation, I think that's still a good strategy. But if you have a high repeat purchase rate, you might try doing just new customer acquisition campaigns and seeing if that works.
And I'm gonna stop you there, and I just want to address this one question that popped up while Jenny was chatting or sharing her content. And I think this is a complicated question. I don't think there's one direct answer, Jenny and Laura, but love to hear from you. Michael asked, what's the best way to get your ads to show in the AI overview section? I'm sure this is like the $1 million question.
No. This is a really great question. So nothing else is needed. It acts like regular search, right? But you just need to make sure, honing in again on what we said, that you're using these AI-powered campaign types like broad match to expand reach, so you can capture those incremental queries. Also using performance max, you're able to serve things like shopping campaigns there. And then always using smart bidding to make sure you're bidding competitively when you're matching that user intent. And yeah, so it's those trifecta there. The same things that you're doing that we recommend to improve your search strategy is what's going to get you on the AI overviews. So nothing incremental you need to do there specifically for landing on that AI overview page.
Awesome. Thank you both so much.
Cool. Yeah, love the lively Q&A. That's always fun. Thanks, guys, for the questions. Great. So when we talk about all those ways to segment products, right? You have segmenting, by top sellers, new products, zombie SKUs. Great way to codify that strategy is within your product feed. So Google will give you the opportunity to label your products with 5 different fields, custom label 0 through 4. You can use whatever labels you want. We tend to want to label those products based on their business impact. So that can be based on how and when they sell. So top sellers, seasonality, can be based on other recent performance trends like the zombie SKUs we talked about, the ones that need to be revived with a different bidding strategy or different campaign strategy. It can be also an opportunity to codify that business data that we were talking about, like margin tier or products that have map pricing that they have to adhere to. So if you can codify all of that into the product feed, that's really the best way to have a single point of truth for your PMAX strategy, your Google Shopping strategy, because it informs your campaign segmentation, it informs the ROAS targets, the CPA targets, and it probably also informs how much budget you're willing to put behind each group of products. And we have an amazing feed service here at Agile that I'll plug. It's not only meant to strategically optimize the feed with these labels, improving product type, improving product titles and descriptions, but it's also like a really great data management system where our team is monitoring data quality, getting ahead of disapprovals, suspension notices, et cetera, to make sure the feed is in great health as often as possible. They have a great uptime. I think it's like 99.9%, something like that. It's a really amazing team. The next piece here is testing and learning with different creative and audience combos. So this is that asset group performance data that we pull out of Google's AI. I think it's something that's coming soon to the interface if it's not already there, but that asset group level performance is really key for our team to just look at the aggregate performance of how is this group of audiences and creatives and products performing, and how is it performing versus other ones that we're testing. So here's where we get a chance to test, how do custom intent audiences work versus in-market audiences, or how do various creatives work against others. So this is something that we pull out of the API, and it's part of our reporting suite, but I know it's coming soon to the Google suite as well.
Laura, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to confirm. We are rolling out enhanced asset group reporting for PMAX campaigns. So be on the lookout for that. That is confirmed coming.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're all very excited about that. And the other thing that we're looking at is just gaps in creative for the various asset groups. And I think our team has gone through many years of testing with Performance Max, and we've tested asset groups with, you know, no creative, a lot of creative, and everything in between. I think what we're finding lately is that the ones with more creative just tend to perform better. So we have this asset group report, which now is in the Google Ads interface as well, but this is from our Agile reporting suite where we can just see gaps with the various creatives. So you can see the number here that you have, landscape image, square image, portrait image, things like that. And being able to look at this in a grid view, a color-coded view, allows our team to really quickly identify areas where we can bolster these asset groups with more creative. All right, so let's talk about broad match strategies. I think Jenny did a really great job teeing this up and talking about the importance of how the search landscape is changing and how we as marketers might need to adapt to these new search behaviors. So like she was talking about, you know, it's not enough just to have like your basic keywords anymore. And if you use broad match, you probably will get, the keyword plus some of these additional phrases. But if you can start to target how to best, where can I find, etc. phrases, these are going to match up a lot with the way that people are searching today. So people are looking for the best king size mattress and, or best for side sleepers, like Jenny mentioned. So it's making sure that your ontology starts to maybe match how people are searching is great. Obviously, you can't accommodate all of it, and that's where the nature of broad match comes in, is that it's going to be give you maximum visibility across a wide range of searches and permutations. But if you can seed it with these terms, these more commonly used terms, it'll give Google's AI more to go off of. And we still use broad match as a discovery tool. So as you see popular search terms start to bubble to the top, popular concepts, you can sort of pluck these search terms out and take more control over them in phrase match or exact match with higher bids. So if you want to put a lever of control on a certain keyword or a certain concept, I think it's still a useful tool. But broad match is just going to give you that huge visibility so you can understand some of the patterns in searches and which searches are kind of bubbling to the top in terms of their popularity.
Logan, I think this might be a good time to address Andrea's question as well. She says, is it advisable to include competitor brand names in search themes, or will it increase bid costs?
We've definitely tested that. I think it's hard to know now because the reporting is coming on search themes, right? Like it's on the Google roadmap to release that. We've definitely tried it and it seems to work well, but I think until that reporting is released, it's kind of TBD. I don't know if Laura or Jenny, you have any insider info on competitor terms in search themes and if that increases CPCs or not.
I wouldn't say increases CPCs. What I'd more think about is using your search themes to get more relevant, to direct the AI to more relevant traffic. So if you were to include competitor terms in there, hopefully it would be driving you to more relevant traffic as well, right? So we should be looking at the overall performance of how those incremental search themes help. We don't have any stat to understand whether that will increase CPCs or not, but one thing I like to encourage advertisers to look at is not CPCs, but to look at your core metrics. If you're using conversion-based bidding, then look at your CPA. If you're using TROAS bidding or value-based bidding, look at your ROAS. And why we say that is because if your CPCs go up, that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It's because we are bidding higher on higher value customers, right? And what that means when we bid higher is we're bidding lower on lower intent customers too. So CPCs can go up, traffic can go down, but your return or your cost per conversion will go down. So look at those core conversion metrics rather than CPCs, even though I know all metrics are important, but would just encourage you to look at that way.
A great answer. Thanks for sharing, Jenny and Logan.
Well said. Cool. As we finish up here, the broad match section, so I think this is where the human touch comes in. You still want to control negative keywords with broad match. It's come a long way, especially in the last 5 years. Like I've been managing Google campaigns for 13 years now, and I remember the days where broad match wasn't so great, but now it's really amazing. But you still do have to control with negatives, and there are just certain things where the AI, there's like some nuance where the AI is still not going to catch it. So this would include terms that are adjacent to your keyword, but just happen to be irrelevant. So like we have a company that sells salon equipment, but if it's a salon supplies term, then that could be an end consumer looking for just like a one-off supply, whereas salon equipment is more of like that B2B customer that they want to get. So it's a very like similar ontology, but has a lot of different meaning and intent behind it. You could also see synonyms coming here for products that you don't sell or that just aren't quite related. So watch out for those. And as always, you might see some relevant terms, but for whatever reason, they don't perform for your business. So keeping an eye on those as negatives as well.
We're going to interrupt with a poll here. If something we covered today sparked your interest, or could benefit your business, take a moment to fill out the poll to request an in-depth one-on-one audit. Logan, can you give us a little bit more detail about what happens in these audits?
Yeah, sure. So this is an audit, pretty in-depth Google Ads audit created by my team and I, where we're diving into everything Google Ads, including performance max campaigns, standard shopping, search, your bid strategies, where your ad dollars are going, where the revenue is coming from, and how you can optimize campaigns, or ideally how we could optimize them for you. So, we want people to request this audit if you're interested in outsourcing your Google Ads management to an agency like Addital. And if you have at least $20,000 a month in Google Ad spend, we'd love to do an audit for you, and we'd love to talk to you.
And I'd like to add, just if you're not sure, you could click yes, and we'll provide more information. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're signing up for anything, but it would be great to allow us to get into contact with you. And I'll leave this poll up for the remainder of the webinar, and we'll continue to move on. So we have a couple of questions that we wanted our experts to answer. Laura, this one's for you. What's the biggest misconception you've seen e-commerce advertisers have about adopting AI, and how do you help them overcome it?
Yeah, so I think the most common misconception that we hear is that AI is set it and forget it. So I think people often think that our solutions are totally hands-off, when in reality they are very powerful AI tools, but they require strategic guidance. So I think we've touched on that a lot during this session. So hopefully this doesn't feel new to you, but I think the two probably key points that we emphasize here is, the first is that AI is only as good as the data and the inputs that you feed into this. So I think earlier on, Logan touched on first-party data being the foundation of a great PMAX campaign. So definitely want to reiterate that. But I think like when you think about your role in building a PMAX campaign, you remain as the marketer just as crucial as ever in establishing the right strategy, setting the right goals, feeding in the right data, audience signals, creative inputs. So it is very far from set it and forget it. It's really just a way to amplify your performance. I would say the second thing to kind of help overcome that is just the transparency that we give to advertisers when they're using our AI. So you'll have a view, like we talked about a lot of the reporting features and how we're enhancing those, and they continue to enhance, but essentially where your ads are serving, who you're reaching, kind of to help demystify the black box that a lot of people think about when they think of AI, and emphasize the controls that are available. So I think ultimately we just want people to know that successful adoption of AI is rooted in strategy and guidance. It is not a passive automation tool.
Yeah, that's great information, Laura. I wholeheartedly agree. Let's move on to Jenny. For teams resistant to adopting AI due to fears of complexity or losing control, what strategies do you recommend for building trust and confidence in the technology?
Yes, great question. And I know it's really hard to, and there's a lot of hesitancy to adopt new things. But the thing that I will say is that, you're not competing with AI, you're going to be competing with other marketers that are using AI. And so in order to stay on top and be competitive and get the most for you and your advertisers, media dollars, it's really important to lean in. And so first is to test, retest, and learn. Even if you've tested something in the past, our AI is changing a lot. For example, Broad Match is a completely overhauled product than it was 2 years ago. It's a completely brand new feature. So I'd say for control, test in small increments, and scale out when you understand the impact. In those testing phases, make sure that you're giving the system enough time to get adequate learnings. What I see a lot is you implement something like Broad Match or new creatives in PMAX, you're going to get brand new scale and you're going to be in a whole new environment. So the system needs to relearn how to bid and compete in this new environment. So at the start, you're going to see CPCs go up, right? And that's because the system is learning how to react in this new environment. And then it's going to get better over time. So don't pull the plug straight on it. Follow the best practices for testing and the length of time needed for testing. Secondly is really basic. Follow best practices. I see best practices can be overlooked sometimes. So making sure that you're setting the right targets and things like that, that you're not making huge changes, because again, that will set the system into a learning and cause some changes or fluctuations in performance. Thirdly, Laura said it, don't set it and forget it. This isn't a silver bullet. It needs optimization. And then finally, the last thing, which we have touched on before, is it's really a measurement play as well, right? AI is only as good as the data that you put into it. So I would say really look at the data that you're providing, any additional signals that can really get closer to the customer's business outcome, and that's how you're going to get the best performance. So in short, test and learn in small increments, follow best practices, don't set it and forget it, and make sure you're using the best data that you have available to you to pair up the AI.
And Jenny, Adrian is asking in the chat, can you give us any idea of how long is the right amount of time to wait for your campaigns to be optimized? When do you feel performing at their best?
Yes. So firstly, when you set up a brand new, or you're setting up a draft and experiment or something brand new, best to set it up and wait for 2 weeks before making any changes. So you set it up, you set the target of what the average ROAS or CPA is the last 30 days. So you've got a good baseline. Don't touch it. I know it's very hard when you see something changing in performance, you want to optimize. Don't, because the system is learning. If you change it, it's going to have to relearn, and you're going to interfere with that really valuable learning period. After 2 weeks, start your experiment phase. There should be at least 4 weeks time worth of data where you can play around with the targets to get that sweet spot between volume and efficiency. Don't make any changes 20% higher or lower. And then after 4 weeks, plus your conversion delay, always make sure that you're waiting to include your conversion delay to understand the impact. After 4 weeks plus conversion delay, you should have a good period of time to understand true impact, and not including those initial 2 weeks in your testing period.
Thank you.
No problem.
Laura, for businesses concerned about AI replacing the human touch in campaigns, how can they strike the right balance between automation and creativity?
Awesome. Yeah, I think we hear this one a lot. I think it is a valid concern, but the critical point being AI is not intended to replace the human element of your campaign. So I think a few examples of what we mean by this, specifically through the lens of creative, is, and first, AI can be a powerful tool, not just for creating the assets, but also facilitating the creative process. So think of the use cases outside of just Gen AI to create an image or create text. You can use it to spark ideas, gather insights, things that will help to create a springboard for creativity rather than a substitute for your own creativity. I think the second is this concept of customization at scale, which I think we touched on a bit earlier. So a lot of the tools that we have at Google revolve around taking a hero asset and then automatically adapting that to resonate across all the different touch points that your ad might serve. So this is the type of automation that allows you to scale your creative output while remaining rooted in the original content, in your authentic brand voice. And then I think the third is when you are using Gen AI to actually create the assets, I think maintaining human oversight and control is still extremely important. So setting clear brand guidelines, reviewing the content that's created and making the final decisions. So I think ultimately it's making sure you're leveraging AI as a tool to aid the process of creative development, but not replace it.
Great, thank you. Logan, what practical steps can e-commerce advertisers take to ensure they're using clean data to get the most out of AI?
Yeah, great question. I think Laura and Jenny probably touched on some of these things, but I think first of all, like the idea that AI is going to be this silver bullet, it really won't be, and it needs human touch, but it also needs clean data. So you've heard like the phrase "junk in, junk out." That's definitely the case with AI. So I think for like Google Ads, when we think about the data. It starts with conversion tracking. So using Google's enhanced conversion tracking, I think is a great first step. Make sure the code is firing properly. Can't tell you how many accounts that I audit where there's something wrong with the code or the repeat rate looks off, it's double firing, something like that. If you have a problem with your conversion tracking, then that is going to throw off the entirety of Google's algorithm, and it's going to be overbidding and overspending in areas where you may not want to spend as much. So that that conversion tracking is really the first step. The second thing is I think having a really clean CRM. So when you're uploading that first party data, making sure the customers are recent customers, making sure you're refreshing that data very often. So hopefully you have an API hookup where you can upload this daily, or you're at least, if you have to manually do it, you're doing it weekly or at the very least monthly to get the most up-to-date customer data into the interface. And then I think just the campaign structures themselves are really vital. So thinking about just like keyword targets, the landing pages. So let's say you have a really important keyword and it's not performing well, but it's not going to the most ideal landing page. Well, like Google will de-emphasize that keyword and go elsewhere, but if the customer experience is not optimized, then that's going to be a big blind spot in your approach. So I think that is where that human touch comes in, where you have to think about the structure, the strategy, the shopper experience, customer experience, things like that. So I think those are three great ways to start to get that clean data
Thank you, Logan. Another one for you, Logan. What other AI tools are on the horizon to improve paid search performance?
Yeah, so this is sort of an agile specific one, but we're working on a bunch of AI tools right now, and the big goal here is to um, take our already expert paid search team and kind of supercharge them. So surfacing insights faster will be a huge thing, taking like large chunks of data and synthesizing them into key takeaways and action items is something that we're actively working on. This includes reporting improvements, things like that. And there are other sort of more ontological tools that are using more of like the large language models to look at the vast search query data that's within Google Ads. I think that's another like really untapped kind of resource as we're getting all these great search insights, search categories, search terms in these campaigns, and we're building tools to get better equipped to identify patterns and capitalize on those patterns. So just a couple of things to be on the lookout for from Agile that we're working on here from an AI perspective.
Great. I want to move on to some of the questions that have popped up in the Q&A. Nikita asks, how many asset groups are recommended for a PMAX campaign? Also, regarding audiences, is it advisable to have one asset group for affinity, one for in-market, etc.?
Got it. I might have the Google team answer that first, and I'll talk about Agile's approach if you want to do that, Jenny.
Yeah, sure. So the first was how many asset groups. So I would focus less on the number of asset groups and more about the quality of the asset groups. So think about what themes are really important to have in your PMAX campaign or whatever you're advertising, and making sure you've got clear theming for each service that you offer. So I would focus. There's no kind of special number that fits all. It's more about making sure that the theming within each asset group is correct. So for example, if you're a homeware store and you're selling both kitchenware and bathroom appliances, say that you're splitting all of that out, so you're serving really good creative that's specific to all of those themes. So focus on it that way rather than numbers. And then I missed the second question. What was the second question?
Also regarding audiences, is it advisable to have one asset group for affinity, one for in-market, etc.?
I wouldn't recommend that. If again, it's with theming, so I would think about more the themes of what you're selling rather than the audiences for splitting up your asset groups.
Right. Anyone want to add, or we
No,
feel
I agree with that. I think it definitely depends. Like we have some clients where like one asset group per campaign is great. Others where we're having three or four like different themes, like Jenny said. So um,
great?
and I think for us, like the asset groups, sometimes we do test the different types of audiences. Sometimes we mix them together. So it just kind of depends on what your strategy is.
Yeah, and while we're on that, actually, I know this is a PMAX campaign question, but when we think about theming, thinking about broad match, right? Broad match ad group theming is really important, and so um, just wanted to call out a new signal that we have in broad match keywords that we mentioned earlier, was that broad match now understands the theming of the other ad groups or the other keywords within that ad group. So just an extra best practice, make sure that you're adding your broad match keywords in with wherever your exact and phrase match are, and make sure that you're having your ad group theming set up correctly, because that's another signal to power up your performance.
Great. On to a question from Jamie. How has PMAX been for you using broad match versus phrase match? I've still had a preference for phrase match since it doesn't require me to be as diligent with negative terms.
Yeah, I'll take this one. So I think it's just a question of broad match versus phrase match. I think we have a pretty strong preference for broad match at this point because it is that only match type that's using AI to power it. So I've definitely seen worse performance recently with phrase match versus broad match. And I think I've noticed in the last at least 1 year that you don't have to be quite as diligent with the negatives with broad match as you once had to be. Some of those best practices that I went over earlier in the webinar still apply. Like there's gonna be some nuances that the AI misses, but I think in general, we have a strong preference for broad match over phrase at this point.
Thanks, Logan. And Jenny, I think this question is for you. Will Google make it so you can reformat the content within the platform so that we don't have to upload the same content 3 or 4 times in different orientations so that PMax can optimize it?
Is whoever asked that question on the call, I'd love to hear a little bit more context on that.
They're saying back to content orientation. Will Google make it so you can reformat the content within the platform so that we don't have to upload the same content? Maybe more information in the chat.
I'm not sure if I put the same content 3 or 4 times.
I do know we have some tools like auto apply for creating like different sizes for your videos and things like that. Hopefully that's helpful. But yeah, I can look and see if there's any specific changes you're making with regards to uploading. But would love to know, is it an issue that you have to upload to different campaigns? Yeah, the context would be super helpful.
Great. Well, those are all of our questions. Oh, here's a little bit more context. You mentioned different orientation is best practice from square to landscape, etc., but we have to upload those separately.
Yeah, so maybe what you're asking is like if you can just upload a single asset and Google will like resize it and crop it to all the different formats. I think that might be it.
Yes. They're saying yes.
Oh, perfect. Let me look into that specific question, to be honest. We do have like some auto generated like reformatting of the format of or the size of the video. I know like with your agency as well, and this is something that Laura can help with. We have like a team here where we can upload at scale different, we can translate your horizontal videos to vertical. That's something that we have a team that can do that for you at scale. So that's definitely something we can support on if you're finding that that's a lengthy process. But yeah, and we'll follow up if there's anything else. I'll have to look into if there's any other features that we have that will help you do that a bit quicker.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Laura, Logan, and Jenny for being here and answering these questions and sharing this information. I want to let you all know that that's a wrap for today's webinar. I want you to keep an eye out for upcoming sessions, including best TikTok ad strategies for e-commerce in 2025, which will be on March 26th. Combating rising ad cost will be on 4/9, and using SEO to influence ChatGPT and AI overviews is another exciting webinar we have coming in April. April 23rd to be exact. You can find these and more at agile.com/insights/webinars. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to answer any additional questions that might pop up after this webinar. Thanks for everyone who attended.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.